Formula One promises immortality. The roar of the engines, the champagne sprays, the names etched in diamonds. But for some of its brightest stars, the story ended far too early. They were future champions, no doubt in anyone's mind. Gilles Villeneuve, who drove like every lap was his last, was just one race away from rewriting Ferrari's legacy. François Cevert, poised and precise, was already being groomed for the title by Jackie Stewart himself. But fate had other plans. This is the side of F1 no trophy can fix. The moments when destiny was speeding toward greatness and crashed before the finish line. These are 10 F1 drivers who were destined to be champions, but died too soon. Gilles Villeneuve, the Lionheart who died. Chasing the dream, Gilles Villeneuve didn't just drive, he attacked. Every corner was a dare. To Ferrari fans, he wasn't just any driver. Gilles was fire in a red suit. By 1979, Gilles had come painfully close to a world title, only to play the loyal teammate and let Jody Scheckter win it. But everyone knew it was only a matter of time before he becomes a champion. Villeneuve was Ferrari's future. Then came 1982, his revenge season. But things unraveled fast. At the San Marino Grand Prix, teammate Didier Pironi ignored team orders and stole a win. Gilles was furious, betrayed and humiliated. 2 weeks later at Zolder, Belgium, he was still fuming. In qualifying, desperate to beat Pironi's time, he caught a slower car at over 140 miles per hour. The Ferrari launched, shattered mid-air. Gilles was thrown from the wreckage. Hours later, he was gone. Ferrari never recovered emotionally. The man who could have become a legend died chasing justice, not points. His son, Jacques, would later become champion. But the shadow of Gilles always loomed. Ronnie Peterson, the super Swede who never got his crown. If speed alone decided champions, Ronnie Peterson would have had more than one. They called him the Super Swede, a blur of bravery. By 1978, he was at his peak. Officially, he was the number 2 driver to Mario Andretti at Lotus, but everyone knew he was quicker. He obeyed team orders, sacrificed wins, played the long game. And the title? It could have been his next season, but Monza changed everything. At the Italian Grand Prix, the start was chaos. A pileup of cars surged into the barriers. Ronnie's Lotus was caught in the crush, bursting into flames. Fellow drivers dragged him out, his legs broken but his mind sharp. Everyone thought he'd be fine. Nah, he wasn't. Complications from his injuries took his life hours later. He died not from the crash itself, but from what came after, a delay in treatment. Ronnie never got his title, but his death broke Formula One's heart. The next day, Andretti was crowned champion, in silence. Jim Clark, the perfect driver taken mid-sentence. Some say if you built the ideal Formula One driver in a lab, you'd end up with Jim Clark. Effortlessly fast, endlessly smooth, and almost shy off the track, Clark won 2 world championships. And he wasn't done. By 1968, he had 25 Grand Prix wins, more than anyone at the time. And he made it look easy. But greatness doesn't always get to finish its arc. In April 1968, Clark entered a Formula 2 race at Hockenheim, a tune-up, a routine weekend. But during the race, his Lotus veered off and slammed into the trees. No cameras, no spectators nearby, just silence in the forest. Clark was gone at 32. The cause? Likely a tire failure. Sudden, unavoidable, final. Formula One lost its most gifted driver not in a championship fight, but in a support race that should have been harmless. Colin Chapman, his team boss, never recovered emotionally. Rivals like Jackie Stewart and Graham Hill said what everyone was thinking. Jim Clark would have gone on to win 5, maybe 6 titles. Peter Collins, the gentleman who gave too much. At just 26, Peter Collins had the world at his feet, driving for Ferrari, winning races, and on the verge of a world championship in 1956. But it wasn't just his speed that stood out, it was his character. That season, Collins had a real shot at the title, but at the final race in Monza, teammate Juan Manuel Fangio suffered a mechanical failure. In a stunning act of selflessness, Collins handed over his car mid-race to let Fangio finish and win the title. No contracts, no politics, just sportsmanship. Many believed 1958 would be his year. But that summer at the Nürburgring, the dream ended. Collins was chasing the lead when he lost control at Flansgarten. His car somersaulted into a ditch and he was thrown out, suffering critical head injuries. He died hours later in hospital. Ferrari, shaken, would never again allow such freedom in team orders. Collins was more than a contender. He was a future champion whose generosity may have cost him his own crown. A hero on the track and in spirit, lost before his prime could ever peak. Bruce McLaren, the visionary taken too soon. Bruce McLaren wasn't just fast, he was a pioneer. By 22, he had already become the youngest Grand Prix winner at the time. But racing was only half his legacy. Bruce was building something bigger, a team that could outlive any driver, including himself. In the 1960s, while competing in Formula One, McLaren also laid the foundation for his own racing outfit. The team quickly made waves: sleek orange cars, bold designs, and a spirit of relentless innovation. Bruce wasn't just competing for wins, he was shaping the future of the sport. By 1970, his driving career was slowing down, but his vision for McLaren was soaring. Then came a test session at Goodwood. In a prototype Can-Am car, a bodywork failure caused him to crash at high speed. Bruce was killed instantly. He was just 32. He never saw his team win a Formula One title, but within 6 years, McLaren became world champions. Today, the team bearing his name is one of F1's most iconic. Bruce McLaren wasn't just destined to be a champion, he was destined to build them. Piers Courage, the gentleman racer with grit. Piers Courage came from aristocracy, but his driving was all heart. With a fearless style and infectious charm, he was quickly marked as one of Britain's brightest F1 prospects in the late 1960s. After cutting his teeth with BRM and Reg Parnell Racing, Courage made headlines with Frank Williams' underdog team. In 1969, driving the uncompetitive Brabham chassis, he shocked the paddock by finishing second at both Monaco and Watkins Glen. It wasn't just raw speed, it was courage under pressure. People began whispering, if he ever got the right car, he could go all the way. But in 1970 at Zandvoort, everything unraveled. His De Tomaso car, quick but fragile, bottomed out at high speed, broke suspension, and veered into an embankment. The car burst into flames. Piers was killed instantly. He was only 28. His death devastated the paddock, especially Frank Williams, who lost not just a driver, but a friend, Jochen Rindt, the champion who never got to celebrate. Jochen Rindt was chaos and charisma rolled into one, a fiery Austrian with raw speed and a never-lift style that made him the most electrifying driver of his generation. By 1970, he was finally in the right car, the revolutionary Lotus 72. And he made it count. That season, Rindt was untouchable. 5 wins in a row. He wasn't just leading the championship, he was dominating it. Aggressive, fearless, and brutally fast, he pushed the car, and himself, right to the edge. Then came Monza. In qualifying for the Italian Grand Prix, Rindt's car suffered a suspected brake failure at full speed, heading into Parabolica. His Lotus veered violently into the barriers. Poorly secured guardrails sheared through the cockpit. He was killed instantly. He never got to start the race, never got to fight for the title. And yet, no one caught his points tally. For the first and only time in Formula One history, the World Championship was awarded posthumously. Jochen Rindt became the champion who never got to celebrate. Tony Bryce, the star Graham Hill, believed in. Tony Bryce had only raced in a handful of Grand Prix, but already the paddock was watching. A karting prodigy turned F3 sensation, Bryce had that rare mix of natural speed and calm under pressure, the kind that made legends. By 1975, he was driving for Embassy Hill, led by two-time world champion Graham Hill. Hill saw in Bryce what few others had, the makings of a future champion. Plans were in motion. Bryce would lead the team into the next season, fully backed, fully trusted. He had outpaced teammates, impressed veterans, and had the belief of a man who knew what greatness looked like. But greatness never got its chance. In November 1975, while returning from a test session in France, Graham Hill piloted the team's small plane back to England. On board were Hill, Bryce, and several key team members. They never made it. The plane crashed near Arkley Golf Club in dense fog. All 6 on board were killed. Bryce was just 23. Helmut Koenig, a rookie silenced. Too soon. Helmut Koenig had only just broken into Formula One, but it was clear he had something special. Calm, technical, and consistent, the young Austrian was turning heads with his composed performances, especially in the underdog Surtees team. In 1974, at the age of 25, Koenig landed a seat with Scuderia Finotto, then moved to Surtees, showing quiet promise that hinted at a long future in the sport. He wasn't reckless, he wasn't flashy, but he was fast, smart, and hungry. The type of driver who grows into a contender. But at the season-ending United States Grand Prix at Watkins Glen, tragedy struck. On just his 3rd race start, Koenig's car suffered a suspension failure. It slid off track at high speed, and what should have been a survivable crash turned fatal. The car's roll bar failed, and the poorly secured barriers gave way. Koenig was decapitated on impact. The crash was horrifying, not just in violence, but in the fact that it was preventable. The safety standards that had improved in some places were still dangerously lacking in others. Watkins Glen never fully recovered its reputation, and Koenig's death, just a year after François Cevert had died at the same circuit, became a turning point in the push for better barrier integrity and circuit oversight. Helmut Koenig had barely arrived, and he was gone. François Cevert, the heir to the Tyrrell throne. François Cevert wasn't just fast, he was refined, graceful, and devastatingly quick when it counted. Under the mentorship of Jackie Stewart at Tyrrell, Cevert became the crown prince of Formula One in the early 1970s. In just 4 seasons, he built a reputation as one of the smoothest drivers on the grid. His 1971 win at Watkins Glen was clinical, and by 1973, he was outperforming nearly everyone, except his mentor. With Stewart planning retirement, Cevert was poised to take the team's reins and lead Tyrrell into a new era. Many believed he was a future world champion. It was just a matter of when, not if, but that moment never came. During practice for the final race of the 1973 season at Watkins Glen, Cevert lost control at high speed through the S's. His car struck the barriers violently. The crash was fatal. Stewart retired quietly, the team shaken to its core. Cevert died at 29, just as his time was arriving. His loss wasn't just personal. It changed the future of the team and left Formula One wondering what brilliance had been stolen too soon. Glory denied. In Formula One, speed is everything. But sometimes fate is faster. These 10 drivers weren't just quick, they were destined. Their talent lit up the track, their names echoed in the paddock, and their futures looked golden. But before the titles, before the trophies, before history could catch up, they were gone. Some fell in flames, others in silence, all left behind a haunting what if. They remind us that in this sport, potential means nothing without time. That glory can be just one corner too far. And that sometimes the greatest champions are the ones we never got to see. Now it's your turn. Whose story hit the hardest? Which of these drivers do you believe would have changed Formula One forever? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more untold stories from the heart of F1, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Because sometimes the biggest legends are the ones that never got their chance.